And what is up, everybody? Aaron the Dog back with another LFA breakdown, LFA 122 with Lucky Locks picks here, taking place this Friday, January 21st, Friday night on UFC Fightpass, 9 p.m. Facebook has the prelims for whatever reason. I'm going to keep complaining about that until Fightpass just puts it all on Fightpass, but go watch them on Facebook off your phone and beam it onto your TV, and hopefully your TV streams it, or you're just going to be watching off your phone like I do. But either way, we're not even going to be talking about the prelims, so it's all good. We're talking about the main card here for LFA 122, Charles Johnson versus Carlos Mota for the LFA Flyweight Championship. It's got to be Charles Johnson's close to his last fight in LFA, I would think, unless he loses. Taking place in St. Louis, Missouri. Got a few other really good fighters on the card. Obviously, Brant Moore and William Starks, I think, are tops amongst those with Charles Johnson. But a couple other guys I think that could be interesting down the line. But how you doing, Lucky?
Doing great. Back-to-back weeks of LFA, and we got a pretty stacked one here. Lots of good fighters, like you pointed out. So, yeah, I'm excited to break this one down. It should be a really fun card to talk about and to watch.
Yeah, and we did not plan this to wear our beanies together. We're just that much in sync. So, either way, we're here to hopefully make you guys a little bit of money before the weekend. UFC 270 going down this Saturday, obviously. Double breakdown day here on the channel. So, Thamaris, thank you for joining us. Good to see you there. Just grabbing my clipboard and gonna be able to keep track of those timestamps. So 1 second, got to get my marker. Always prepared. This is my first breakdown. 1 second. And here we go. All right. But Thamaris in here. I know we're going a little bit early, so some people will probably catch up with us later, but it's all good. I wanted to get this done, give us a little bit of extra time here. But it's another good LFA. I will say when it's not a great LFA, but the first two of the year have been pretty solid. Last week, I think we went 5 of 6 on our picks, if I'm not mistaken. So pretty good, successful week. We've been well over 60%, I think, in our picks since starting with LFA. So, also there's slowly getting a few more LFA breakdowns out there. We're the originals. We're the Stone Age. Back in the day, there weren't other LFA. The way I found you was because you were the only other breakdown on YouTube. So we're slowly seeing these ones come in, all of which they seem to come in after this one goes up. But either way, gonna start at, I believe, what is it? It's a 6-fight main card as usual. Starting at 170. This is a fight that I am not as sure about, to be honest. I looked much more into the other fights on the main card, but we've got 4-2 fighter in Jeremiah Curtright. In this fight is at 170, by the way, taking on Sarek Shields, who I am not positive, but sure looks like he might be related to the Jake Shields. Didn't look too far into it. 1-0 out of Portland, Oregon. Does he have any association to Jake Shields, or am I just making this up?
Not to my knowledge, but who knows?
Doesn't he kind of look like Jake Shields, or am I just like crazy? I
don't know. I'm not
similar brow, maybe not. But Sarek Shields, berserker, 1-0, 26 years old, 3-fight win streak going back to his amateur career. Fought with Cage Sports 61 back in July. Don't really know much about that organization. Need to get a decision over a fellow debutant. 5-1 as an amateur. Got knocked down as 1 loss. Had 3 knockouts and 2 submissions on his record. Faced a decent competition, it looks like, as well. But wasn't able to find too much on him. So it really is a pretty kind of topology view for him with Curtright. 31 years old, 4 straight wins after losing his first 2. He's fighting out of St. Charles MMA. St. Charles has Julius Anglicus, as well as a few other solid fighters out of that camp for sure. Won 4 straight, had a few boxing bouts also that he lost. Lost to Benjamin Bennett, who's not at all a bad fighter. We've been able to see him a few times. As an amateur, went about 500, had a loss against Darian Weeks, who just got a fight announced with Ian Gary. So good luck to him in that fight. But yeah, 4 straight wins, 4 knockouts, I should say, in those 4 wins. So definitely a good striker. All those wins coming in 2021, got very active. Seemed to increase the level of competition as he went. I think this, could be a good fight. I just don't know a lot about Sarek Shields. Kurt Wright would be my assumption of a pick here, just because based on the activity and the finishing ability, but not one I'm putting a whole lot of stock into. Couldn't find a whole lot on Shields. He could be a completely legit prospect from what I'm seeing. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah, there's not too much information out here for this fight. I mean, I think Kurt Wright is definitely going to want this one standing. I believe that he is a superior striker in this fight. Gonna have to be a little bit careful with the kicks. Don't want to get any of those caught and get taken down. But 2 of his pro losses have come by submission, and we've seen him struggle against some good grapplers in the past. He's really going to need that takedown defense in this fight. But he seems pretty big on tape. He hits really hard. Obviously, his KO power. He's showed that to us a multitude of times. Shields was a 5-1 amateur, debuted as a pro last year, won a unanimous decision over a fellow 0-0 guy making his pro debut. So it's kind of hard to tell really how good he is from that. I will say that the striking, it hasn't really looked all that great. It looks a little bit raw. Obviously, I think he's going to want to get this fight down, but he does have really good wrestling. His hips are really strong, and that's going to be his path to victory if he's going to win that fight. He has good transitions on the ground, looks to land damage, pass guard, and just a powerful guy, really strong hips. He opened as a -400 favorite. I felt like that was pretty wide. And this fight, he's down to about -240 now. That's just still a little bit too much for me to feel comfortable on that bet. Kurt Wright was +300. I think that was a really good bet. Now +190. I would probably want a little bit more there if I was going to play it. Kind of seems like a striker versus grappler. And I think I'm going to slightly lean towards the grappler and Shields, but I'm not going to play him at -240. It's just should be
I didn't even have a line available on this fight yet, so I'm not sure if it came together kind of late notice or what. But kind of found that weird. But yeah, good to know those numbers. And yeah, I mean, it's not a fight I'm betting a whole lot on either. And I wasn't able to see a lot about Shields, but yeah. I mean, Kurt Wright, 31 versus the 26, 27-year-old Shields, definitely time on Shields' side too. And sounds like he's the more well-rounded guy. So, yeah. And it's kind of interesting because Brittany Cloudy, is still fighting on the prelims of LFA. I just think that's pretty interesting. I just noticed that. I researched her fight for no reason, but I think she takes the O from Annette Nichols. Just giving you that free little bit of advice too. Even though Nichols is 2-0, I think Brittany Cloudy takes that fight. But next fight here, this is a catch weight of 130 between Dan Moriarty and Jeff Shell. I got to see Dan Moriarty on those Facebook prelims against Joey Scanlon, where he knocked him out cold. Got that one as a slight underdog too. Was pretty pumped with that. Moriarty just looked like a much bigger, stronger guy there. Now taking on Jeff Shell, the Gun, great nickname for him. Very, very. I like when people make fun of their last names. 2 straight wins. Brian Foster's his coach out there with Family Combat Fitness in Arkansas. Last fought in October of this year. As I said, 2 straight wins, 1 Americana and 1 KO, albeit against a 2-2 and an 0-3 Thomas Jacks. So not a very high level of opponents. Lost his debut by decision. Also has lost twice by submission as an amateur. His 4 wins, all being finishes. He's finished all 6 of his wins between amateur and pro. So not Jeff. I apologize. Jet Shell. So he wins the name battle, but Dan Moriarty here, looking pretty good. 7 straight wins. I believe he's in his early 30s. I don't remember. I forgot to note when I was doing the tape on him, but I believe he's kind of a little bit of an older prospect, if I'm not mistaken. Had a good amateur career dating back to 2013. 6 straight wins there. Definitely a good wrestler. Looked to come in as a pro and seemed really confident because of his wrestling and his striking. Had good Boxing, knocked out Joey Scanlon pretty handily there. Jet Shell probably will bring the fight to him. I think that most likely Moriarty gets another KO, or if he has to resort to his wrestling, he will use that kind of against the aggressive forward-pushing Jet. But either way, I like Moriarty all day in this fight. I think he should be able to move to 2-0, but we'll see.
Yeah, catchweight bout at 130 pounds. So both these guys had fights fall out this month, different promotions. So they're going to pair off and go at it on Friday at a catchweight. Moriarty, you mentioned one pro win, came on the prelims of LFA 114 and 6-0 amateur, now 7 straight wins. He hasn't been beaten yet. I feel like he's a lot more measured and precise. Like he just has a more solid process when he fights as compared to Jet Shell. He's also a southpaw as well, which is interesting. Strong in the grappling exchanges. He has good knees in the clinch. We've seen some good offensive wrestling from him, some really good top control, some really good ground and pound. And he had a ton of success in that realm in his pro debut and also throughout his amateur career. And he's really quick in there as well. He moves well. He's a good athlete, strong guy. We'll see what he looks like at this 130-pound catch weight, because I feel like Jet Shell might be a little bit bigger than him, but I feel like Moriarty's, his cardio, he's never given me any reason to believe that he doesn't have a good gas tank. I mean, he's gone the distance before as an amateur. Shell, on the other hand, 2-1 pro, like you mentioned, I think he's going to be a lot more aggressive here early. He has some feints that he uses, looks to grapple a lot, but sometimes he'll just start swinging wildly on the feet. He's also a pretty good wrestler and might have a little bit of size here. He's fought at lightweight before, fought at higher weight classes. He has some takedowns, some outside trips. He's aggressive on the ground, looks to do damage, pass guard, and he's also a pretty quick guy, has some explosive movements. But Moriarty just looks to be the more polished fighter to me. I'm not really sure if he's going to cover that minus 500. I don't really know if I can get there on that. But if Shell looks huge at weigh-ins, like really big, maybe I'll play him at like plus 375. But
maybe he misses weight and comes in as a bantamweight.
Yeah, maybe. If he does that, maybe. But I got to go with Moriarty to win this one. I just feel like he's more technical, more polished, and just a little better overall. Yeah,
and a guy he kind of reminds me of, both in how he fights, how he kind of looks, a similar kind of late prospect is Ira Lukowski, who we saw a few weeks ago. Look really good. They really do remind me of kind of similar, and that might be a little oversimplified here and bleeding into my analysis and my confidence in Moriarty, but I doubted Ira Lukowski. His mom was in the comments of that video letting me know I shouldn't have doubted him. So if Mrs. Moriarty is watching, I got him here. And if Jet Shell's mom's watching, I have a whole lot more questions for you as to why you named your kid Jet. But either way, minus 500. There's very few fighters I'm taking at that price or higher, at 1-0 particularly. So gonna have to just watch this one. But Moriarty should take this one. But again, he's going against a lightweight or a former lightweight as a flyweight coming up here. So the size could be an issue. This next fight here, kind of surprised this fight is what they ended up making for AJ Cunningham, but LFA clearly has a guy in AJ Cunningham that they tried to kind of launch a little while ago. He had a little hiccup in that fight, and they're trying to get him back on track here. This is a squash match here against Fred Freeman here. Fred Freeman, 3-3. He's just in the LFA to lose to 27-year-old prospects like AJ Cunningham, I'm being honest. Out of Arkansas, the Savage, 27 years old. Fights out of law school MMA, which pretty cool name for a camp there. So few Arkansas products. It was Javier Garcia, who kind of was being brought in a similar way here as AJ Cunningham was expected to kind of just walk over Javier Garcia. Javier Garcia was beating him to the punch, working those takedowns, and just kind of gassed out AJ Cunningham. AJ Cunningham kind of got frozen in that fight at points. And I think he was a pretty decent favorite as well. I think probably in the minus 375 range on here. I remember being even a little bit higher if I remember correctly. And Solo Hatley Jr. did the same thing with AJ Cunningham. So there is kind of a recipe for Cunningham. Pressure him with the grappling, try to physically kind of outmaneuver him a little bit and not allow him to get his stand-up going and his offensive game going. But when that doesn't happen, he looks pretty good. Looked good against Jonathan Jackson, but again, it was a split. I didn't have it a split when I watched it, frankly, but the reason it was, I think, scored a split is because Cunningham gets a little bit he gets a little bit delayed in his thinking, gets a little bit frozen out there at points, and allows his opponent to bring the fight to him. So I'm not sure if he fully kind of learned the lessons from the Javier Garcia loss, and I think that's why his management is working on getting him a 3-3 opponent here in Fred Freeman, frankly. So should be able to get away with it. Fred Freeman, 33 years old now, did win his last fight out but it was in October of 2019 with Ultimate Blue Corner Battles. Never heard of that. He did beat a 2-0 opponent in the third round with a knockout. And all 3 of his wins have come by stoppage. So has good offense. He lost a baby slice by rear naked choke over in Bellator. Lost to Aaron Chalmers, who's a decent guy. Not amazing, but a decent British prospect. Yeah, I mean, I think AJ Cunningham should be able to take this one, but I mean, if he's delayed and allows the offense to come to him, Freeman's shown he can get the finish late, but I got to go with Cunningham. It's not a price I'm looking to bet, though.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I'm seeing -600 on him now, open -500. And I mean, like, I get it, but is that something that we want to have money on? No, probably not. Freeman's a 33-year-old fighter from St. Louis, hasn't fought since 2019, but 2 canceled bouts in 2021. So obviously he's been training, he's been in the gym, he hasn't been sitting around doing nothing. 3-7 amateur, 3-3 pro, been submitted in all of those losses. 2 Bellator appearances, like you mentioned, baby slice, got choked out in under 2 minutes. That's not really the best one to have on there.
That was a 1-1. That was a 1-1 baby slice too.
Yeah, and he's 3-3 now himself, so not really the most skyrocketing prospect out there. But no. Aaron Chalmers is like a little bit better, but still, I mean, 2 of his 6 fights have come against opponents with winning records, and he's 1-1 in those. So I guess that's decent. But yeah, AJ Cunningham, Attitude MMA champ at lightweight, back at featherweight here.
Right.
2 pro losses: Solo Hatley Jr., Javier Garcia. You know, I just don't think Freeman is on the level of either of those guys. So I'm going to go with Cunningham. I feel like it's somewhat cut and dry, but it's not a price that I want to be anywhere near.
No, if you're betting a -5 or 600, you want him to fight for your money. And sometimes Cunningham does not exactly do that, and which is why, you know, he's still figuring it out here, and he's still getting matched up with guys like Freeman here. I don't love that he's going back and forth with his weight cuts either. So that's kind of a concern for me. But yeah, I mean, I'm just going to watch that one. There's only one -600 I'm betting on this card, and he's up next here, and that's William Starks. I'm not going to make a secret of it. I'm a huge William Starks fan. Have been since that Slava fight and actually before it, but especially the Slava fight with LFA, which is one of the biggest jokes of a split decision you're ever going to see. William Starks won that one. I don't care what anybody says. That was not a close fight to me. It was close to 3 rounds for William Starks, if anything, not a split decision. But yeah, I mean, William Starks has kind of gone all over the place, had a good start to his career at 7-2, 28 years old, 5'10", 155, taking on the former welterweight, catchweight fighter and Glacio Elizario Slavomar, 9-7 now, Nova Union, 5'8", 70-inch reach. Glacio we're pretty familiar with LFA. He's lost 3 straight, including his last 2 or 3 with LFA, I should say, losing to Christian Aguilera, Aaron McKenzie, and Chris Brown. None of those are bad losses. So that's the first thing I'll say right off the bat. Aaron McKenzie, I believe when they fought, it was at lightweight. So Glacio has been down to lightweight. He was at a catchweight in his last fight with Chris Brown. That very well might have been Chris Brown's side kind of influencing catchweight based on how he's been struggling to make weight. So I'll assume Glacio is able to make the weight here, but you know, that's kind of, other than that, we've kind of seen over his last 6, he has went over Victor Romero at 5-1 with Shuto, but lost to Yozolandi Izquierdo, not a bad fighter, and Ismail Bonfim. We saw the Bonfim brothers with LFA. They're not bad fighters, and it was also an injury that ended the fight. It just seems like Glacio beats very low-level opponents for the most part, and when he steps up with the Natan Schultz of the world, the Bonfims, the Izquierdos, the Aguileras, and so on, kind of loses. So I do kind of rate William Starks well within that range of fighters. He's very, very methodical and very athletic as well. Just well-rounded, an amateur champ as well. Won 3 straight since losing with UAE to 5-1. I'm not even going to try to name that guy, Abdurrahman Gitstan Bansova, whoever that is. Either way, 5-1 fighter. It was a very close fight, actually. And, his other loss coming to Michael Cora back with Titan early on in his pro career. Very good win over Vladislav Borshev, as I said, with LFA. I don't think that was a split. And then just has kind of had trouble finding high level of opponents. So Cliff Wright and Irfan Moltavanovic. Irfan was huge, so I'll give him that, and seemed like a good offensive guy, but at 1-0-1, not sure how great he is, but he did what he needed to do, gets the hooks in and puts guys away with the rear naked choke for the most part. I think that this is another fight that he should be able to kind of go through. He's just much better than Glacio, and I think there's big things in store for William Starks in 2022. I think he'll be signed to the UFC before the year's end, personally, or at least getting a Contender Series shot, and rightfully so. So I think he should go through Glacio here. I just don't see Glacio having anything he hasn't really seen before. The price sucks, unfortunately, and probably as a result of seeing how good Slava's been, it kind of bumps up the stock of William Starks as we see the Slava knockout last week. Didn't help, but I got to take Starks here, and he's in one of my favorite parlays for the night.
Yeah, I feel like this guy is pretty damn safe to be thrown into a parlay. I mean, even at the price, Will Starks, I feel like, is a lot better in this matchup. I mean, look at his amateur career. This guy beat Ben Bennett, Lucas Clay, beat Alex Martinez twice, all as an amateur, like on that IMMAF scene coming up. Now he's 7-2 as a pro. He's a win over Slava Borshev, as you mentioned. With the striking, he has good body shots. His hands are quick. Like, the hand speed is good. He's a good defense, good striking defense. Great wrestler, really effective. When he gets those hands locked, likes the inside trip. He's fast in there, good movement, good footwork. He's really athletic, like you alluded to. Lots of power on those takedowns, good cardio, good durability. I mean, was standing in there with Slava Borshev for 3 rounds, and we just saw Borshev in the UFC, and they couldn't even last 5 minutes in there with them. So, like you mentioned,
with an LFA champion. Yeah. With an LFA champion, Dakota Bush. Once upon a time, LFA champion.
Yeah, exactly. Man, what a throwback. Dakota Bush, the LFA days.
Yeah.
Brings me back. But yeah, Elias.
He probably wants to go back to LFA, to be honest with you.
One.
After the last couple, I think he's like, let me just go run LFA for life.
Yeah, man. Elizario, I mean, just not the best record, 9-7. He's faced some tough guys, like you mentioned, Schultz, Bonfim, Aguilera, Aaron McKenzie, Chris Brown, but he hasn't beaten any of those guys. He's 2-5 in his last 7, lost 3 straight coming in here against Will Starks. Like, I don't know, man. That's a really tough one.
Cutting 20 extra pounds from the last fight.
He's been finished in 5 of his 7 losses, and he's 34 now. Just too many red flags. I just think Starks is a lot better. He is a heavy favorite, but I'd be pretty shocked if he didn't win this fight. Yeah,
-600. I mean, I'm still adding it. I think he'll be 4 digits by fight night, personally. And I just don't see what Glacio is going to have for William. Williams fought a lot of bigger opponents too, so that's not an X factor I'm exactly worried about either. I'm needless to say a huge William Starks fan. -600 sucks, but I was kind of expecting something around there. So he should be able to get it done. He is in one of my main parlays for the night. And we're on to last 2 fights are very interesting. Co-main event, very interesting one. Brant Moore is making his 3rd or 4th fight with LFA here. I think this is a very, very close matchup, personally, with Arthur Estrazoulas. I believe I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, you're used to it from the channel anyways. I do the best I can. Estrazoulas, 12-5 out of Huntington Beach, California, fighting on King's MMA, 32.5 years old, 5'11", 70-inch reach. gonna have a 4-inch reach disadvantage against Brant Moore. However, kind of with how Brant Moore fights, reach doesn't really play too much of a factor for the most part. But Arthur Estrazoulis lost his last fight out, 12-5 now. Lost to Nick Brown, former LFA champion there, and no real shame there what that was for. The lightweight belt, actually, Nick Brown's gone on to beat Bobby Lee with Bellator. He's looking really good there at now 12-1, I believe, so no shame there. The Dominic Clark fight was a very interesting fight to watch. He actually did get taken down pretty early in that fight with a body lock that, frankly, is similar to the approach that Brant Moore is going to fight against him. So I was a little bit concerned, but he was able to get up, has a really good get up game, seems to have legit jiu-jitsu. And once Estrazoulis started initiating the grappling, he looked really strong in the wrestling. Was able to get his opponents back. And I think that Dominic Clark, being a wrestler himself, was not expecting to be wrestled. So that's kind of an interesting little, I think, route that Arthur could go in this fight, because Brant Moore is going to go forward Damian Maya style with a body lock, get pressure against the cage and try to get you down to the ground and keep you there. That's what Brant Moore does over and over again in his fights. It's kind of one of my concerns with him is it's a little bit one track and doesn't seem to be developing that other part of the game. He looks extremely athletic. You see the kind of the training tape, you see the crazy hair, the movements. You're like, oh, this guy's going to go in there and just flow. And he kind of doesn't. He just kind of sticks with the one track. And it's worked, but I think someone like Arthur Estrazoulis could really bust this. He has, again, a lot of good experience. He's lost a lot of those fights to guys like Christos Giagos, Thiago Tavares, a split against him, and then Nick Brown. Wasn't finished in any of those fights. Also has finished, a 9-2 opponent, Steve Cozzola, with the rear naked choke. Dominic Clark, who, he's 14-10, but Dominic Clark came in really well. And then Dave Cochran, a 20-6 opponent, he knocked him out. So he's got some good wins. Mike Segura as well with Bellator. He's fought on some big stages here. And at 32 years old, I think the time is now for Arthur. I think he looks to be in really good shape. He looks to have good size. I think he's going to be the bigger of the two opponents here against Brant Moore. And Brant Moore definitely has the hype here. For sure, he's 9-1, Killer B, good prospect here. He does have a reach advantage, but I think the strength is going to go to Estrazoulis. 7 straight wins, though, for Brant Moore here. Killer B, 27 years old. He is going to continue getting better. Last 4 coming with LFA. Last 2 against Joe Giannetti. Really good fight there where, he kept getting the takedowns and got top position, but he didn't really do much with it, especially for the first 2 rounds. But it worked, got the side control, held it there. And then Ago Husek, another guy who he was okay, but not exactly well-rounded, pretty much just a striker. And Brant Moore just used the grappling here. I think this is going to be one of Brant Moore's toughest tests of his career, honestly. And we see the common opponent with Lucas Clay, or we see Lucas Clay in there. AJ Nichols as a win, that's solid, but there's not a lot of extremely well-proven wins here. Joe Giannetti is okay, I guess, but I actually do like Arthur Estrazoulis in this fight. I think that his wrestling could be a huge advantage. I think he could if he gets Brant down, we haven't seen how Brant looks defending the wrestling. We've just seen him as a wrestler. And if this is a stand-up bout, I kind of favor Arthur much more than Brant. So I'm a little bit surprised, but initially I thought this was going to be Brant. The more I looked into it, I'm actually going with Estrazoulis in this one. I just think he's got more tools and a more well-balanced MMA game.
Yeah, man, this is a really interesting fight, and I actually think that Estrazoulis is just as long as Moore. I believe on the last LFA fight, they had his reach listed at 74 inches.
Okay.
But on Tapology, they have it at 70 for some reason.
Yeah.
So that's, another thing that plays into his favor. And Moore standing has his hands pretty low at times. And he's not a bad striker by any means, but it's definitely not his best strength in the cage. I definitely don't think that he's going to win a stand-up fight against Estrazoulis. If it stays standing for 3 rounds, I think he would lose probably pretty badly, to be honest.
Yeah.
But he's a very, very good grappler, and he's a submission threat. He's going to want to grapple. He always does. He has good takedowns, great top control, but doesn't really have too much in the way of ground and pound. Like, he doesn't really do much. You mentioned that in your half of the breakdown. He just doesn't really do much with that top position other than maintain it, which, I mean, if you can hold it for 2 out of the 3 rounds, you can win. But I would like to see kind of more of an aggressive game plan from him when he gets those good positions. But he moves pretty well around the cage. Not the most powerful striker, but pretty powerful in the grappling. And we know he has the cardio to work a wrestling and grappling heavy game plan for 15 minutes. Estruzoulis, on the other hand, is going to be a lot more aggressive in the striking. I think he has that good Muay Thai background, also as a jiu-jitsu black belt. Really hard low kicks, goes to them often. I think that those would be really good to implement against Moore. Has some good combinations, good in the Muay Thai clinch. And he's got a lot of submissions too. I mean, he's also a very dangerous grappler, pretty good defensive wrestling. Like, that's going to need to be really, really good here. But I just can't shake the feeling that at some point he is going to be taken down, but he's not necessarily an easy guy to hold down. I think that he's the more powerful fighter on the feet, the better fighter on the feet. He's durable. Like, I don't see him getting finished. He's in good shape. He's gone 5 rounds, just in his last fight. So Moore opened up -350, got steamed to -500. And I was thinking really hard about playing Estruzoulis at +375 because, I mean, that line is just crazy, to be honest. But now at -215 for Brant Moore, it's a little better, and I think I'm going to lean towards him to get the win. I'm not going to play it, I don't think. But I think Estruzoulis' best moments are going to be early in the fight, and I think that once Moore gets the wrestling going, I see him being able just to kind of lay and pray for 2 out of the 3 rounds. So I think I'm going to go Brant Moore, but betting wise, I definitely think Estruzoulis is all the value and all the upside here.
Yeah. I haven't pulled the trigger on the Estruzoulis bet, but I hopefully maybe can get closer to like -300 for Moore, and I start to think about it again. -500 against +375. I would already bet. So yeah, unfortunately my books open LFA a little bit later, so I miss out on some of these crazy early lines, but should be a good fight. Again, Brant Moore has a ton of hype on him right now. This is the kind of fight he should win for sure. But, I'm definitely curious to see if he's able to kind of adjust the game plan if the grappling doesn't work. On to the flyweight title fight, Charles Johnson fighting in his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri against Carlos Mota, Brazilian here. So should be a good flyweight fight here. 2 really dangerous guys. Carlos Mota undefeated at 6-0, 26 years old, 5'6", 69.5-inch reach, nearly the same reach as the opponent's 3 inches taller. He did fight, has fought a little bit bigger at times here, but here we go. Carlos Mota, definitely a very strong opponent, really, really good amateur record as well as the pro record, 9 straight wins going back to the amateur career. Coming off of a win at LFA 112. That was after a 2-year layoff. It was at a catch weight of 139. He was facing a guy in Jefferson Oliveira, who was 6-1. He was a -1,000 favorite. So that's probably how solid Jefferson Oliveira was. He fought at the welterweight Grand Prix. Got a decision there. So, but he's faced all opponents with plus records as a pro. He's got a couple of finishes by KO and decisions here. Good striker for sure. This is going to be his 3rd fight with LFA, but I don't know if he's fought. He did fight at flyweight back in 2019 with them. So he has been a flyweight before coming back. So I think maybe it was just kind of a couple years off and trying to get back into, the fight game a little bit. Took that fight on a little bit short notice with Jefferson Oliveira. He's definitely a dangerous striker, and that is kind of where Charles Johnson gets his bread buttered. Former Tiger Muay Thai standout, hasn't been able to go out there. So he's been with St. Charles MMA, I think, for the most part. Charles Johnson has, but he's just looking better and better with each fight. The Yuma Horiuchi fight was really impressive there. 3 straight wins for him, actually. Carly Pangolin, Yuma Horiuchi, and then João Camilo in his last fight, putting away 2 of those 3. The Yuma Horiuchi was a split decision, but it was a really solid, just high-level fight. Both guys, I think, showing they belong towards the top level. Charles Johnson, to me, he's just so focused right now, and I think just really clicking on all cylinders. 33 years old. The time is now to get the contract, to defend his belt. I think this will be his last fight with LFA, honestly. And I like energy here. I think that he is just going to be able to push the pace on Mota. I think the weight cut could be rough for Mota, and then first 5-round fight here also for Mota. Those are some factors there. Jefferson Oliveira, I think, is several steps below Charles Johnson. Also, I just think that this is a spot. Charles Johnson at home, defending champion. He's been in 5-round fights before, faced some good competition leading up to this, and looked really good against in his last fight against João Camilo. He did what he was supposed to do. He just absolutely schooled him. And while Jefferson, Oliveira kind of was supposed to have a similar type of outcome against Carlos Mota, but Mota was a little bit slow starting in that one. Looked like the time out of the cage had kind of hurt him, and then hasn't taken another fight since then. I would have liked to see maybe a fight before fighting for the title here. I think this is set up for Charles Johnson to take the win, and I like the price as well. So I like Charles Johnson to put this together through the first few rounds, get a finish third, fourth round.
Yeah, Charles Johnson is on quite the run at the moment. Submits Carly Pangolin in an LFA 100, wins a split decision over Horiyuchi LFA 110 to win the interim belt, and then defends it at LFA 114, finishing João Camilo in the second round. And he's a great striker. He's really good footwork, good feints, good hand speed, good low kicks, good teep kicks up the middle, really sharp combinations, goes to the body, goes to the head, mixes it up. And he's pretty serviceable in the grappling as well. He has 4 submissions on his resume. Offensive grappling has looked pretty good. Defensive wrestling, is aided by the fact that he is a tall flyweight at 5'9". He's just one of those lengthier guys that are kind of tricky to get down sometimes, and he's not really easy to hold down when it does happen. He's very quick in the cage, and yeah, like I said, he's a big flyweight. He packs a bit of a punch, not like crazy power, but he does connect hard. He has 3 wins by KO/TKO, and he's in good shape. We know he can go 5 rounds. We've seen him do it. We've seen him look fine, look fresh in the later rounds, and he's coming up against Mota, who, he has some power at 125. He's a good boxer. He's very aggressive. I feel like sometimes he's a little bit too aggressive. Sometimes he kind of throws naked kicks, swings a little too hard, and can be a little bit open. And I feel like a guy like Charles Johnson is going to be able to tag him and catch him with some counters when he does overextend, when he does leave himself a little open.
Use some movement.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Mota's going to be, especially in the early rounds, the more aggressive guy coming forward and pressuring. I feel like Johnson will be kind of evading the big shots, landing some counters, and just kind of skirting around the outside of the cage early. And Mota is a jiu-jitsu black belt. We've seen him have success on the ground and the scrambles, and I can see him being a little more powerful in the grappling and wrestling. And maybe he will try to go that route with Johnson. But I think that I got to go with Charles Johnson in this one, man. I capped him around like minus 185, minus 190, and I don't think minus 170, which is where I got him, is a bad number. It's not crazy value, but I do think there is some to be had there. I see him just being able to counter the big strikes of Mota, being the fresher fighter in the championship rounds. We've never seen Mota in a 5-rounder before, as you mentioned, and I think after the first 2 rounds, the tide is really going to start to shift towards Charles Johnson. If it isn't already there already. So, yeah, I got some money on Charles Johnson here. That's my only bet for the card.
Yeah, I like Charles Johnson here as well. Yeah, he definitely will be a part of – I feel pretty good about a few of these, and I think that Charles Johnson alone is worth the bet at minus 185 still. I could see a decision or inside or, finish by submission or KO, frankly. So it's hard for me to really – nail down a method with Johnson, but I know he handles it well when he gets to be a counter striker. I know he handles kind of the volume and all that well, and I think he'll have a cardio advantage. So I do like Charles Johnson here. I'd like Charles Johnson, Dan Moriarty, and Starks as kind of my three-way parlay that I'm probably going to put in some money on. And then other than that, I'm not loving Cunningham at his price. The Brant Moore Estrazulis fight, I might put a wager down on Estrazulis if I can get it over plus 200. And otherwise, I'm just going to really be enjoying this fight card. I think it's closer in a few of these fights than people realize. But if all the favorites if it goes the way of all the favorites, LFA has several really exciting prospects that they have either getting picked up to the next organization or one step away after this fight. So, this should be a good card. It takes place on Friday night leading into 270. I think for the most part, we agreed. The Shields Kurt Wright fight we disagreed on, which is fair enough, but neither one of us put any money down there. Moriarty, AJ Cunningham, William Starks for both of us. Brant Moore for you, and Esther Zulis for me, and then Charles Johnson. So 2 disagreements, more than usual for our LFA picks lately, actually. So it's probably a good indication it should be a good card. But will do it for the LFA 122 breakdown show. I will be back tonight with Boston comments for the UFC 270 breakdown at 7 p.m. in about 4.5 hours. But go ahead and check out Lucky Locks Picks. Is your breakdown up on your channel?
Yes, sir, it is.
Excellent. Go check that out. It's a really good refresher as you're kind of going back through it here. And then we will be back with our next LFA when it happens. But for Lucky Locks, for Aaron the dog, keep taking care of each other. I'll see you all later.